Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Before I say anything, before I start, I do want to pay tribute to Mankamal Singh, who's Shamsher Singh's father, who passed away recently. Now, he's been very modest, and I know he hasn't mentioned anything about it, but Mankamal Singh gave a lot of sacrifice to the Sikh community for us as a Qawm. He was a Sangharsh Singh. He was an advocate of Sikh rights, of sovereignty, and for that he spent a lot of time in prison. And out of that was born organizations such as SOPW and other groups that looked at Sikhs in prison. So, you know, I just want to pay tribute to those giants, because we stand on their shoulders of those giants, and the Sangharsh Singhs always deserve our respect. So, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Yeah, to move forward, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned when you started, because I remember that quite clearly. It was More London, EY. You had your launch. Rupinder, I remember you speaking there. I remember Jagraj there, and there were quite a few of us, perhaps people sitting here, but we were all sitting in there thinking, okay, well, this is it. You know, this is what we always needed. We needed an organization that joined the dots. We needed an organization that spoke on our behalf. Yes, you know, we were engaging with the press, but it was very much centered on individual groups that were engaging with the press. It was centered on Jathebandis, organizations, but there was nothing that was coordinating the voice. There was nothing that was working together. And that's what Sikh PA brought to that space, which we never had before. So, you know, in 2015, was it 2015? When did you launch? 2015?
Officially launched in 2015, but we started our first project in 2014.
Well, official launch, and that was one of the great things about Jagraj Singh. His vision, he was a risk taker, he was a trailblazer, and I take a lot of inspiration from that as an individual as well. Often, you know, I didn't sometimes used to agree with his approach, but the thing about Jagraj is the fruits came later on, and you could see that investment that he put into the community, that investment that he put into these organizations. We are now seeing that manifest itself amongst these activities that are taking place amongst us. Back in 2015, actually, Sikh PA put me forward for an interview with London Live. Remember, Rupinder, we went to the studio together, and it was an interview on TV about the effects of Islamophobia and the demonization of the turban and how it was affecting Sikh children. There was an issue that had taken place, I think, can't remember if it was Canada or America, where there's a video where a child was on the bus and he was being called terrorist. And that impact was felt by us all. And to be honest with you, we've grown up with that. We know what the demonization of the turban is all about, whether it's because of the current situation with what we see in the Middle East, whether it was 1984, whether it was a racist agenda. You know, I think I've always seen an agenda against the turban, whether it's National Front, whether it's you know, the Indian media and the elites of India, or whether it's you know, what we see today in terms of the media spinning things and the right wing re-emerging in a different guise. So that's always existed. We've always had to battle that. But we are stronger. We are a community that has 70 years behind us here in the UK. You know, we have now the education, the means, the skills to tackle this, to tackle that narrative, to explain that narrative from a Sikh perspective. You've got Shamsher, who eloquently talks about sovereignty, talks about Khalistan, not in a way that we need to hide anymore or feel that it's something that we can't discuss. It's open, it's an agenda item, it's out there now. MPs know about it, politicians know about it, and we're moving in that direction. So there's more confidence coming out, and this is where these organizations like Sikh PA help immensely. One of the great things that that I'm really grateful for Sikh PA to do was around about the time, just when Jaggi was arrested and the Free Jaggi campaign was in its early stages, when the Indian media was coming out with all that propaganda, there was an item that was released in India Today, which showed the image of a British Sikh with a Pakistani historian, but they called him an ISI agent, and they said Sikh terrorist meets ISI agent. Now, I knew that individual. That's Bobby Singh. I know Bobby Singh. I mean, many of you may know Bobby Singh from Birmingham. You know, Bobby Singh is an active Sikh. He's involved in history. He's an active historian. He travels to Pakistan. He's part of the Anglo-Sikh Heritage Trail. He's working with me on the Sikh War Memorial, and is a personal friend. And when I saw that, straight away I got in touch with Jasveed, and we spoke about the whole thing, what that meeting was all about. It was a meeting with Isnan Nadeem, chairman of the Dayal Singh Majita Trust in Pakistan. Now, this is a trust set up by a great philanthropist and Sikh, Dayal Singh Majita. And it was a trust still being run in Pakistan, and he was the chairman of that trust, so they were still loyal to that trust. Ironically, Dayal Singh Majita set up the Tribune in 1881. So the Tribune newspaper was set up by Dayal Singh Majita, but that was the context of that meeting. It was a meeting in Pakistan. It was a historical meeting. It was a meeting about Sikh history, and it was just a meeting that took place back in 2004 or 5. I can't remember now, so long ago. But that's how it was just put out there. That propaganda was put out there. Jasveed worked on it. Jasveed put the narrative out there. It was picked up. Sunny Hundal picked it up. Barfi Culture picked it up. And other news agencies picked it up as well. Now, we wouldn't have had that platform otherwise. We wouldn't have had that connection. We could have put out individual tweets, but had it got that traction, I don't know. But, you know, so again, you know, that was something that Sikh PA was able to do and take forward. That picture you see was from Vice, BuzzFeed, I'm afraid, sorry. And it was an article that they done with myself and my wife, Devinder, about Sikh attire, about Sikh clothing. So it was an opportunity for us to talk about the star, to talk about Bana, and to talk about Kirpan, the way we want to express what the Kirpan is about. And what was really good in that article is we were able to express what that Kirpan actually meant to us, even to the point that Devinder's Kirpan that she was wearing was my grandmother's Kirpan that she wore, and it was passed down in the family. So these kind of narratives and nuances and family traditions are something that we don't get an opportunity to talk about. So we could talk about that, you know, that we are wearing kirpans that have got significance in our families because they have gone and passed down generations and generations down through Sikhi, through the kakars as well, being passed down by grandparent to grandchild. Sikh PA's put us forward for various BBC radio interviews on Amrit. One of the ones I did a few years ago now was about the growing number of young people taking Amrit, and when I was part of the Gurdwara committee, I could comment on that. And this wasn't, you could say it was anecdotal evidence, but it was real evidence that I could see that there were younger people who were coming into Sikhi that were taking Amrit. When I took Amrit back in 2004, I was 30 years old, and the next oldest person to me in that Amrit Sanchal was probably 60. And there was 8 of us, I remember, that took Amrit. And the Panch Pyare just focused on me all the way through because I think they were just happy that there's someone young with a black beard taking Amrit. Now, that's changed a lot. That has changed a lot. A lot of you have come into Sikhi, you know, thanks to basis of Sikhi, thanks to the Prachar that is out there now. A lot of younger faces. There are a lot more people confident to have their Sikhi Swaroop, the Malle, the stars, open daris. All these things were not there 5, 6, 7 years ago, you know. So things have changed a lot. And that was something I was able to discuss on various different channels to say, yes, that identity and that affiliation with that identity is growing, and that bond with Amrit is growing within the next generation. Academic research, as Jasveed mentioned, is something that he's put our way. Brunel did a recent piece of research on mental health and faith leaders and how mental health sits within faith groups and how equipped faith leaders are to understand mental health. The reality is probably very little, I'll be honest with you. I've been in the Gurdwaras, I understand what faith leaders see and how they see mental health. And it's certainly not helpful when someone is suffering from mental health and they come for advice in the Gurdwara. Our community are ill-equipped. They've got their preconceptions. And there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Particularly, Gurbani talks about mental health. Gurbani mentions mental well-being. It's such an integral part of who we are. So while we have those misconceptions, it's a breakdown in communication. It's a breakdown with that relationship with the Guru. Sussex University conducted a piece of research on sex-selected births. And it was a quantitative piece of work. Another university was doing the qualitative side. And they wanted to know, is there still an issue? Is there an issue in the United Kingdom with Sikhs about sex-selected births? Is there sex-selected abortion taking place? And the build-up behind that was relationships, how we view gender, how our experiences of having children. I've got 2 boys and a girl, so we've been through both the genders. We've seen the community perception, we've seen family perceptions. So we could discuss that, we could understand that, and there were challenging questions. There were really challenging questions about contraception, about other things that I'd never ever thought about, and it put us on the spot. But we need to be having these discussions. We need to be engaging with academics. We need to be thinking about it ourselves as well. Where does it sit with us? Where does it sit within Gurmat? So it put me on the spot, believe me. Advocacy. And this is something that very few people see, what Sikh PA have done in the background. I mean, some of the things we've talked about, but sometimes there are issues that don't need to become issues. There are issues that can be buried. There are issues that can be, not say buried, but resolved. And recently there was an incident, I won't go too much into it, there's no point then talking about this, but I think just you handled that impeccably, that specific incident, because I reached a point where I was actually ineffective. But Sikh PA coming in on this and resolving that issue before it became an issue was great. And that's the clout that Sikh PA has now. It has clout. It has the ability to intervene and stop a situation from becoming a situation. And that's also very important. And the education through media, what you're doing through Vaisakhi, Shabil, and Diwali. I mean, Atam Academy, which I'm one of the founders of, we adopted that straight away because it was a great thing to do with our children. And we had National Shabil Day. We got great coverage by Ilford Recorder. And the children loved it. And that day we had a Department for Education inspection as well. So we had a school inspector. So everything just worked well. We just gave him lots of Shabil as well. So the novelty was there. It just worked so well that day. But when we explained what Shabil was about and why we give Shabil, I think, for him, he was just mesmerized by it all. He just thought it was great. I mean, that's really all I want to say. I mean, that's my involvement and how I've been had the opportunity to be involved with Rupinder, with Sukh. They've helped us, they've supported us. When Atam Academy is a free school, a Sikh free school in East London, when we had our Knee Patthar, we had our groundbreaking ceremony, Sukh kindly turned up. I was really grateful for that because I sent the invite to a lot of Sikh organizations, and I will always remember the ones that did turn up in the end. And we would have got coverage that day had it not been for Pride. So I think we clashed with, is it called Pride London? So we weren't colourful enough, unfortunately. But we would have, there was interest, but had it not clashed that day. But that's the kind of work and that's the kind of connections that Sikh PA do on our behalf. So just to reiterate, we're joining the dots now. We're working collectively. We're becoming more coherent, and it just adds more strength to our voice. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.